morning, everyone. Le'ilui nishmat ishti Alice bat Yosef Naim v'Salima. Today I want to talk about Rosh Chodesh. Now, well, the Rosh Chodesh is a center part of our lives, and as I'll explain later on, why it is so center to everything in our lives and inside and around us. Now, Rosh Chodesh, it originally started in Egypt. The first Rosh Chodesh that Hashem and Moshe commanded Am Yisrael was to make it before they even left Egypt. That was the first undertaking. And after that, everything was based on the month, absolutely everything. And it's quite interesting how this developed. And we find at the time of the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf, they called out for donations. All the men brought gold, silver, and precious stones, and their earrings and their nose rings, but the women absolutely refused to take part in this. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. It was too close to Sinai, and that was it. And so Rosh Chodesh was made in honor of them. In other words, of course, Rosh Chodesh has got its underlying reason, but nevertheless, the women have a special place here, and that's why it's called Chag HaNashim. That is the festival for women. Now, in Mitzvah Hashem, the Zman HaMashiach, we're told that that will be an actual festival where we'll actually have full services and it'll be a day off. In the meantime, it's supposed to be a day off for the woman. She mustn't do any housework or anything else like that. Her husband has to stay at home, and or not, but nevertheless, she is off that day because of their participation. Now, of course, we know there's a lot of halachot in the Torah, a lot of laws which are spelled out there, which I won't go into. Everybody knows them, and you can always look them up. That's quite easy. But the laws guided us how to work out the timing, exactly when it was, because sometimes it was 29 days, and sometimes it was 30 days. Now, this was very important for fixing the time of Pesach and Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, etc., and all the other festivals. So, what they used to do is they'd have the Sanhedrin meet. They would examine all the witnesses. The witnesses could come as many as they wanted, and they would be looked after during the time when they're waiting, and they would be cross-examined, and then they'd make a decision. And then outside on the mountains of Yerushalayim, they would light bonfires, and then far, far away, mountains and I mean really a long, long away, all the way towards Babylon, where there was a large Jewish community there, and there they lit fires, and they would watch for the signal from afar, and they would light their fires. And it was like a telegraph running that day, but without wires, but just the lights. And so that's how, and of course they also sent runners, and whoever got there first, so it was then decided whenever they got there, whether it was 1 day or 2 days of the festival. So that was Rosh Chodesh. I remember a few little stories, but the main thing will come after that. One of the stories is I've mentioned Nabokov to you and the power that Nabokov has, because it's the 42 names of God built in it. And Nabokov was made as a poem, a sort of a mantra, so we would remember to say, because the first 42 words in the Torah actually has embedded in them the full 42 names of Hashem, and this is divided up into lots of 3, so we find that all the letters represent it. And it has an enormous power. It downloads energy, and I've told you a few stories. But I remember that was once Birchat HaChama, the blessing of the new moon, and I was in Los Angeles with a Kabbalistic organization. And there comes Motzei Shabbat, the sun is cloudy and is fully covered, no hope of it breaking. So everybody said to me, I said, what are you going to do? He said, naturally, of course, we're going to say Nabokov. They took 20 minutes, they did it slowly, and they said Nabokov b'kavanot, and then suddenly the sky opened. But nobody was surprised, they expected it. It was opened, and when we finished, it closed again. So you can see direct things, and I've got enormous number of stories where you could actually see direct things happen from that Nabokov. Nobody realizes, rush through in the tefillah, but in most Bate Knesset, or certainly an Ariya Kadosh, everybody sings it slowly and does the letters that you see at the end of each line. You see the letters, they're the names of God. And we do that with Kavanot because it can have a powerful effect on the day. Now, so we find that was the effect, and we should remember it. Another very small story, when it's about 50, 60 years ago, a bit longer, there was a group of Hasidim were in town, and they went into a central place in New York, and they started to Birchat HaChamah, and a policeman came and arrested them because you're worshipping the moon. They tried to persuade him, no, they've got to go to court. They spent the night in jail, next morning before a judge, and the judge says, you know that it's a criminal offense here because this is counted as idol worship. You can't do that sort of thing here. And then they explained what it was all about. And of course, it was a Jew, by the way, who knew absolutely nothing, and he was quite pleased to hear it. But those are two little vignettes about the Rosh Chodesh. But last night, I couldn't find any story, nor remember any story in connection with Rosh Chodesh. So what I did last night, and I did do it quite a number of times, I did She'elat Chalom. I said, right, I can't find it. I want inspiration, what to say tomorrow in order to get down to the depths of Rosh Chodesh. And so I dreamt, and then after dreaming, I carried on, and I must tell you, it overtook my mind, and I want to share with you this download, which I believe is quite significant. Rosh Chodesh is the cycle of the moon. Everything in our lives is a cycle. We start off with a woman. A woman is affected by the cycle of her life. Regularly each month she has her cycle. But that's also in good married relationships. If you ever want to have somebody repair their relationships, you tell them, listen here, if you make sure you go according to look, it's like fire and water. A man and woman is like a fire and water. The woman wants space sometimes. The water wants to be calm, and so does the fire. So they need. What normally happens with fire and water, the fire can, if there's cooperation, cooks the water, can heat up the house, can do all sorts of wonderful things, even make steam if you need it. And so they're good friends. And also, the water also, it cooperates and they work together. When suddenly they need space, the fire can actually burn away all the water. I mean, send it up in clouds. And the water can put out the fire. So it's a very dangerous thing. So we're told as follows. During those 2 weeks, in other words, when the Chama is going up towards its zenith, that is when we can have full marital relationships. But when it comes to the second 2 weeks and gradually the moon is going down and her mood is going down and her feelings are going down and she wants space, then you lay off for 2 weeks. And it brings families together. Those people who experience this know it. It's like falling in love again. It renews the marriage for a very, very, very long time. But then we go even further. Everything in our lives goes round. Look, all the stars, the moon, even the electricity, it turns around. It goes around. The electricity goes around right to left. The energies flow right to left. Most of the energies, they've been tested on this, flow right to left. Everything is going around in circles. Now we find in our inner lives and in our outer lives. The inner lives, we have moods. We have ups and we have downs. We have confidence and lack of confidence. We sometimes have black days and we have bright days. We find that also goes in a sort of a cycle, and there's a cycle calculated for this. I've forgotten the name of what it's called, but it's very interesting to know. It's for men. I think it's every 23 days. I'm not sure. For men and for women, a separate cycle. And so you have it. Then you have it in your normal everyday lives. You have the cycle in your business. It could go up and then gradually go down. So we find with this outer circle, we find with everything in our lives. And if we don't during that time when it's going up, because it might come down, you never know, for not your business, for outside reasons as we're experiencing now. So we have to put money aside to make sure that when the moon is going up to its zenith and then down, we have that available. And so we find it Also with our children. Our children, as they're growing up slowly, we have to nurse them, we have to bring them up, and we get a lot of joy out of them, sometimes a lot of pain, but they're always rising up and they gradually get married, and you have your children, you enjoy them, and then it goes up to the zenith. Then it starts coming down because a woman reaches a certain age, she can't have any more children. So now she's busy with her grandchildren. So it's pleasant because she invested all that till she went to the zenith, and then coming all the way down to grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and in Mirz Hashem, great-great-grandchildren. I experienced this nearly 60 years with my wife. And it was a rising up of the Chama right to its zenith, a fantastic relationship, and then slowly down. Then we find, interestingly enough, nearly every 100 years, there's been a major plague or disease hitting the world. 100 years ago exactly was the Spanish flu. 100 years before that was the secondary Black Plague. 100 years before that was in the time of Baal Shem Tov, was even worse. And so we've had cycles throughout the generations, starvation, hunger, and floods and wars. Then we've had cycles of wars right throughout the ages, again and again and again. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to stop. And then you have also communism, for example. Communism, when in a cycle, it goes in. The Chafetz Chaim said, Russia, 70 years, that's all it'll last. And it goes out and it goes in. Then they rise up to their zenith and then they go down and they vanish. And the same with China, one day it'll happen. But many, many other countries of the world. And then what about the successful countries? Not only those who attacked Israel, but all the countries in the world. They went to their zenith and then they came down again. Everything is affected by this, and we in our own lives go through our lives in that same circle around. And then we're affected by other outside forces. We're affected by the cycles of the economy. If you look every 8-10 years, the economy goes up, booms, everything booms, and then suddenly, bang, it goes down, 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 and then comes up again. And if you calculate how many times this has been, and it'll keep going on, now today we're going to be hit with the same thing. People do not realize how much. After we come out and we have the full realization what's going on, properties go up and go down. Shares go up and go down. And so it is in this cycle that we have to live with all the time. And so we really experience it now in this big tsunami that's hit us, that we went through a period when we flew up high in our businesses, in our work, in our occupation, not really spending much time with the most important people in our life, our children and our wives or our husbands. And so, but now what's happened? Flying up, suddenly we're brought down with a bang. And we come down, and now we're spending 24 hours, 7 with those people we love the most, those people who make our life worthwhile, our wives, our children, etc., and with ourselves, of course. And then we're going down, so we're going down and around with the family. And now when we come out, most people don't want to go up again. What they want to do is to just hover above, to be able to have on one side, to live in both worlds, the default mode and the divine mode. And that's the effect of the circle. So Rosh Chodesh is much, much deeper than we can imagine. And I'm sure if there was time, I could go on a long time, and I don't think it will be appreciated. But this is enough for the moment. And I'm sure also you could take it from here and think of many things as you go around, and you'll see it in your own lives. Hey, wait a minute, I remember that. Now, obviously, there's a clear bracha for today, that every one of us should be able to hover above the surface with our wives, our children, all our family, and ourselves, and that we should go in our cycle and go round and enjoy the cycle, that we should all be just now going up and enjoying every moment of it and getting a lot. And today, I wish every single person here that you should only have joy, and your cycle should continue to go up. Thank you very much.